There is a revolution happening right now, not on the streets or in the battlefields, but in the most intimate territory you have, your mind. This revolution makes no noise, does not need weapons or manifestations. It happens in silence, word by word, thought by thought, belief by belief. And you, who chose to be here right now, have already enlisted in this war against the limitations that have been planted in you since you were born. Think for a moment, how many times have you said or thought, "I can't. I'm not capable of. This is not for me. People like me can't do it." Each of these phrases is like a brick being placed in the construction of an invisible arrest around it. Such a prison so well built that you don't even realize that you are inside it. You look out and see other people living the life you would like to live, reaching the dreams you would like to achieve, and thinks they have something you don't have. But the truth is much simpler and at the same time more powerful than that. The difference between you and those admiring people is not in talent, luck, connections, or any external factor. The difference is in the beliefs that each one carries within themselves. While they believe they can, you have been programmed to believe you can't. While they see possibilities, you have been trained to see obstacles. While they feel deserving, you have been conditioned to feel unworthy. But today, at this time, this programming begins to be rewritten. Your subconscious mind is like an extremely powerful computer that is running outdated software, full of viruses and malicious programs that have been installed without your permission. These viruses are the limiting beliefs that have been implemented in you by well-meaning family members, teachers who did not understand your potential, colleagues who project your own insecurities in you, and a society that profits keeping you small and controllable. But just as any software can be updated, your beliefs can be reprogrammed, and that's exactly what will happen as you hear these words. Each phrase that penetrates your consciousness is like a line of code being rewritten in your mind program. You don't have to do anything but allow it. No need to fight, no need to force. You don't even have to believe you completely in what you are listening to. Your only task is to relax and allow these new instructions to be installed in your life's operating system. The process has already begun. As you listen, your conscious mind may even try to resist. You can try to analyze, question, doubt. This is normal and expected. But under this superficial resistance, at much deeper levels of your psyche, a silent transformation is happening. The old beliefs that kept you stuck are being dissolved as salt in the water, and instead, new truths about who you really are being recorded with golden fire in the fundamental structure of your identity. You are not small. You are not limited. You are not unable. These are just stories that have been told for you so many times that you started to believe they were true. But stories can be rewritten, and that's what is happening now. With every word you absorb, with every breath you take as you allow these truths to penetrate you, you are becoming a more powerful, freer, more authentic yourself version. This is not just an audio session. It is a liberation ritual. This is the time when you finally allow yourself to release the invisible currents that kept you stuck for so long. And the beauty of this process is that it requires no effort on your part. In fact, the less you try to control, the deeper the transformation will be. Allow yourself to be led by this journey back to your true power. Limiting beliefs do not arise out of nowhere. They are built through a very specific process that happens mainly during the first 15 years of life, when your mind is in a state of extreme receptivity, absorbing information such as a sponge absorbs water. In this crucial period, you do not yet have the critical filters necessary to question what is being deposited in your subconscious mind. Everything that is said with authority, repeatedly repeated or loaded with intense emotion, is accepted as absolute truth and filed in the deepest coffers of your psyche. Imagine a 7-year-old who constantly hears phrases like, "Money doesn't grow on a tree," "You need to work hard to get something in life," "People like us don't get rich," "Don't be too ambitious, you can get disappointed." These phrases, said by parents who genuinely believe they are protecting and educating the child, are like seeds planted on fertile soil. They germinate, grow, and become gigantic trees that dominate the whole mental landscape of that person when they become adult. At 25, this same person looks at a business opportunity and automatically thinks, "This is very risky. I don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Better keep my job safe." She does not realize that she is not thinking with her own mind, but repeating as a parrot the beliefs that have been programmed in the decades ago. It's as if she is wearing glasses with distorted lenses that make all opportunities seem threat. All dreams seem impossible. All potential seems unreachable. The most fascinating about this mechanism is that it works completely and unconsciously. You do not wake up in the morning and consciously decide, "Today I will limit myself. Today I will sabotage my dreams. Today I will feel small and incapable." No. These beliefs operate as an invisible operating system, influencing every decision you make, every opportunity you see or stop seeing, every action you take or stop taking, without even realizing that they are there. This is why so many smart, talented, and capable people live lives well below their real potential. It is not for lack of capacity. It is not for lack of opportunities. It is not for lack of resources. It's because they are operating with mental software that has been programmed to keep them small, safe, and predictable. And the cruel part of all is that they don't even know they are stuck, because the arrest was built within their own minds. But here is the good news that will change everything to you. Just as these beliefs have been programmed, they can be disprogrammed. As they were installed, they can be uninstalled. As they were created, they can be destroyed. And the process to do this is much simpler than you think. It does not require years of therapy. It does not require complicated techniques. It does not require you to revive past traumas or do deep analysis of your childhood. The secret is in the conscious repetition of new truths about who you are and what you are capable. When you expose your subconscious mind to new information in a consistent way, especially in states of deep relaxation like what you are experiencing now, this new information starts to overwrite old programming. It's like updating your computer's software. The new code simply replaces the old one, and the system operates according to the new instructions. As you listen to these words, this process is already happening. Each phrase that penetrates your consciousness is like a beneficial virus that is infecting and transforming the old limiting beliefs. You may not feel anything happening consciously, but at deep levels of your mind, a silent revolution is underway. The old truths about their limitations are being questioned, weakened, and finally dissolved, while new truths about your infinite power are being recorded with fire letters in the fundamental structure of who you are. Before we continue this transformative journey, I would like to make a special invitation. If you are feeling that something is changing inside you, if these words are resonating in a way that you cannot explain, consider subscribing to the channel. Not because I need the numbers, but because you deserve to have continuous access to content that can literally rewrite your reality. And tell me in the comments, what was the first limiting belief you remember to have heard in childhood? Sharing this not only helps you process, but it also creates a community of people who are going through the same transformation as you. To truly understand how limiting beliefs can be eradicated from your mind, you must first understand the complex and fascinating architecture of your mental system. Your mind is not a unique and monolithic entity, but an intricate ecosystem composed of different levels of consciousness, each with its own functions, characteristics, and ways of processing information. It is like a gigantic iceberg floating in the ocean of universal consciousness. The small tip you see above water is your conscious mind, but the submerged colossal mass represents the vast and unexplored territories of your subconscious and unconscious. His conscious mind, that part that is actively listening and processing these words at this time, represents only about 10% of his total mental ability. It is responsible for logical thinking, critical analysis, deliberate decision-making, and processing information that comes through its five senses. It is the part of your mind that questions, doubts, compares, judges, and tries to make sense of the world around you, using thinking patterns that have been developed over the years through formal education and life experiences. But under this superficial layer of consciousness, there is a much wider and more powerful mental universe. It's subconscious. This is the part of your mind that never sleeps, never rests, never stops working. It controls all the automatic functions of your body, your breathing, heartbeat, digestion, immune system, cellular regeneration, without consciously thinking about any of these things. But their responsibilities go far beyond basic biological functions. His subconscious is also the repository of all his memories, experiences, emotions, trauma, learning, and more important for our purposes here, all his beliefs about himself and the world. It's like a gigantic library where each book represents a belief, a pattern of thought, an automatic emotional response that has been cataloged and filed throughout your life. And unlike his conscious mind, which may question and analyze, his subconscious accepts everything that is deposited in him as absolute truth, without question, without critical analysis, without filters. This is why a child who repeatedly hears "you are dumb" or "you will never get anything in life" does not question these statements. It simply absorbs them as unquestionable facts about their identity and potential. And these beliefs, once installed in the subconscious, become as computer programs that automatically run in the background, influencing every thought, every emotion, every decision, and every action for the rest of their lives unless they are consciously identified and reprogrammed. The most fascinating and at the same time more frustrating aspect of the subconscious is that it does not distinguish between reality and imagination, between truth and fiction, between real experiences and vividly imagined experiences. For the subconscious, if you imagine something with enough emotional intensity and repetition, it becomes as real as any physical experience you have ever had. This is why elite athletes use visualization to improve their performance. They literally train their subconscious to believe that they have already performed perfectly the movements they want to perform in real competition. This peculiar feature of the subconscious is exactly what makes the deep transformation you are experiencing at this time possible. When you expose your subconscious to new information about who you are and what you are capable of, especially when this information is presented with authority, repetition, and emotional load, your subconscious begins to accept this new information as truth. It doesn't matter if your conscious mind is skeptical or resistant. The subconscious is absorbing and integrating these new schedules at much deeper levels. But there is still a third level of your mind that is even more mysterious and powerful: the collective unconscious. This is the territory where your individual mind connects with universal consciousness, where you have access not only to your own experiences and knowledge but also to the accumulated wisdom of all humanity. It is at this level that sudden insights, genius inspirations, creative solutions that seem to come out of nowhere. It is also at this level that you can access potentials and capabilities that go far beyond what you believe you can be based only on your personal experiences. When you understand this three-dimensional structure of your mind, you begin to understand why simple conscious willpower is rarely enough to create lasting changes in your life. You can consciously decide that you want to be more confident, more prosperous, happier. But if the beliefs programmed in your subconscious are saying otherwise, you will experience a constant internal conflict. It's like trying to drive a car with a handbrake. You can stem deep into the throttle, but it won't get too far. True transformation happens when you learn to communicate directly with your subconscious, using the language it understands: symbols, emotions, repetition, and altered states of consciousness. This is exactly what is happening now, while you hear these words in a state of receptive relaxation. Your conscious mind may be listening and analyzing, but your subconscious is absorbing and integrating each word as a new instruction on who you are and what you are capable of. And the more you allow yourself to relax in this process, the more you lose the need to control or analyze what is happening, the deeper and more effective reprogramming becomes. You are literally rewriting the source code of your personality by installing new beliefs about your value, your potential, your abilities, and your right to live an extraordinary life. After decades studying human behavior and analyzing thousands of cases of people who live far below their real potential, I found that there are 5 fundamental limiting beliefs that are responsible for virtually all the suffering, frustration, and mediocrity we see in the world. These 5 beliefs are like mental viruses that spread from generation to generation, passed from parents to children as a damn heritage that no one has asked to receive. They are as common, as accepted as normal by society, that most people do not even realize that they carry them within themselves. The first fundamental limiting belief is "I am not enough." This is perhaps the most destructive of all because it affects all aspects of a person's life. Those who carry this belief live in a constant state of inadequacy, always feeling that they need to prove their value, always comparing itself with others and always losing in this comparison. This person may have extraordinary achievements, can be admired by thousands of people, may succeed in any objective measure, but inside he keeps feeling a fraud, waiting for everyone to find that she is not that good. This belief usually originates in childhood, when the child receives conditional love and approval. Parents, without realizing the damage they are causing, make comments like, "You will only earn my affection if you take good grades. I get proud of you when you behave well. You disappoint me when you act like this." The child internalizes the message that she needs to do something or be something specific to be worthy of love, and this belief becomes the filter through which she interprets all the future experiences of life. The second fundamental limiting belief is, the world is a dangerous and scarce place. People who carry this belief live in a constant state of fear and anxiety, always expecting something bad to happen, always preparing for the worst possible scenario. They see opportunities as threats, see others as competitors or potential enemies, and see life as a constant battle for survival, where resources are limited and you need to fight to get your part. This belief is often transmitted by parents who lived through wars, economic depressions, or other traumatic experiences that made them believe that the world is fundamentally hostile. They pass on to children messages like, "Don't trust strangers, save money for difficult times, don't dream too high because you can get off. Life is hard, and then you die." The child grows up believing that he needs to always be in guard, always protecting himself, always waiting for the worst. The third fundamental limiting belief is, "I have no control over my life." This belief transforms people into perpetual victims of circumstances, always blaming external factors for their problems and failures. Whoever carries this belief says things like, "I had no choice. Things just happened to me. I'm unlucky. The system is against me." She abdicates her personal responsibility, and in doing so, also gives up her personal power. This belief often develops in families where parents are themselves victims of the circumstances, always complaining about the government, the boss, the neighbors, the economy, everything except themselves. The child learns that problems are always caused by external forces, and that they have no power to change them. It grows up believing it is a drift boat in the ocean of life, completely at the mercy of the waves and storms that cannot control. The fourth fundamental limiting belief is, "I do not deserve to be happy and prosperous." This is a particularly cruel belief because it makes the person unconsciously sabotage anything good that happens in his life. When she starts to succeed, when things start to work, when she feels happy, an inner voice whispers, "It can't last. You don't deserve it. Something bad will happen to balance." And then she unconsciously makes choices that destroy what she built. This belief often has religious or cultural roots, coming from messages such as "the poor will inherit the earth." "It is easier for a camel to pass through the hole of a needle than a rich man enters the kingdom of heaven." "Suffering ennobles character. You have to suffer to deserve paradise." The person internalizes the idea that happiness and prosperity are in some way morally suspicious, that good people should be humble and suffering. The fifth and last fundamental limiting belief is, "Change is dangerous and should be avoided." This belief keeps people stuck in situations that make them unhappy, but are familiar and predictable. They prefer unhappiness, known to the possibility of unknown happiness. They say things like, "Better a bird in hand than two flying." "Don't move in a team that is winning." "I'm too old to change." This belief develops when the child lives in an unstable environment where changes were associated with trauma, loss, or pain. Perhaps the parents divorced, perhaps the family had to become constantly moving, perhaps there was death or abandonment. The child learns that change equals pain, and carries this equation to adulthood, preferring to remain in limiting but safe situations. What is absolutely fascinating about these 5 beliefs is that they are completely false. They are not based on reality, but in distorted interpretations of past experiences. And proof that they are false is that there are millions of people in the world who live with opposite beliefs and have completely different lives. There are people who deeply believe that they are sufficient, that the world is abundant and friendly, who have full control over their lives, who deserve all the happiness and prosperity possible, and that change is the only constant of life and should be embraced. The difference between these two categories of people is not in their external circumstances, it is not in their genetics, it is not in your luck. The difference is solely in the beliefs that carry within themselves. And if beliefs can create such different realities, it means that changing your beliefs, you can change your reality. And that's exactly what is happening now, while you allow these new truths to penetrate at the deepest levels of your consciousness. Now that you understand the nature and origin of limiting beliefs that have ruled your life so far, the time has come to learn the exact process through which these beliefs can be completely eradicated and replaced by empowering beliefs that will transform your reality permanently. This is not a theoretical or philosophical process. It is a precise and scientifically grounded mental technology that has been used by thousands of people to create extraordinary transformations in their lives. The first step in this process is what I call conscious identification. You need to bring to the light of consciousness the specific beliefs that are operating behind the scenes of your mind, sabotaging your efforts and limiting your potential. This may seem simple, but it is actually one of the most challenging aspects of the process, because these beliefs have become so integrated with your identity that you consider them not as beliefs, but as facts about reality. For example, if you have the belief, "I'm not good enough to succeed in business," you probably don't think about it as a belief. You think about it as a realistic assessment of your objective evidence-based abilities. You can point to past attempts that have failed, to your lack of experience in certain areas, for people you know who are most qualified than you. His conscious mind builds a logical and convincing narrative that justifies and reinforces the limiting belief. But here is the secret that will change everything to you. These evidence that your mind uses to justify your limiting beliefs are not objective evidence of reality. They are selective interpretations of the reality filtered through the very beliefs you are trying to justify. It is a perfect vicious circle. Your beliefs make you see only the evidence that confirms these beliefs, while ignoring or minimizing any evidence that contradicts them. When you begin to question your beliefs as beliefs instead of accepting them as facts, you open the door to a deep transformation. Do you ask yourself, does this belief serve me? This belief empowers me. This belief brings me closer to my goals and dreams or moves away from them. And when you ask these questions with brutal honesty, you quickly discover that most of your beliefs about your limitations not only serve you, but they are actively destroying your ability to create the life you really want. The second step in the process is what I call standard interruption. Once you identify a specific limiting belief, you need to interrupt the automatic thinking pattern that reinforces it. Every time this belief arises in your mind, and it will arise because it has been reinforced for years or decades of repetition, you consciously need to stop thinking and replace it with something different. This requires constant mental surveillance at the beginning. It's like training a muscle that has never been used before. It's uncomfortable, it requires conscious effort, and you will forget to do it many times. But with consistent practice, this process becomes automatic. You develop what I call limiting belief detector, a part of your mind that is always alert to identify when you are thinking limiting, so you can immediately correct the course. The third step is the new programming installation. It is not enough just to remove limiting beliefs. You need to replace them with specific and well-defined specific empowering beliefs. And here is where most people make a crucial error. They try to install beliefs that are very far from their current reality, creating internal resistance and unconscious sabotage. For example, if you currently earn 2,000 Rs a month and try to install the belief, "I deserve to earn 100,000 Rs a month," your subconscious mind will reject this programming as fanciful and unrealistic. Instead, you need to create a bridge between where you are now and where you want to go, installing progressive beliefs that your mind can accept as possible. You could start with, "I have the potential to significantly increase my income," then evolve to, "I am constantly discovering new opportunities to create value and be rewarded for it," and eventually, "I deserve it, and I can create unlimited financial abundance in my life." Each belief in this progression prepares the mental ground for the next, creating a soft path of transformation rather than a shock that generates resistance. The fourth step is what I call emotional anchor. Beliefs that are installed only at the intellectual level have little transforming power. For a new belief to be truly part of you, it needs to be anchored with intense emotion and vivid sensory experiences. You need not only think about the new belief, but to feel what it would be like to live with this belief. To see yourself acting from this belief, imagining the results that this belief would create in your life. When you combine mental repetition with intense emotional visualization, you are using the same technology that has created your original limiting beliefs, but now in your favor. You are deliberately programming your subconscious with the beliefs you choose to have instead of passively accepting the beliefs that have been programmed in you by others. The fifth and last step is behavioral integration. New beliefs need to be expressed through new behaviors to become permanent. If you install the belief, "I am a brave and confident person," but still acting shyly and hesitantly, the belief will not support itself. Your subconscious will interpret the incongruity between belief and behavior as evidence that the new belief is false. Therefore, you consciously need to start acting according to your new beliefs, even if it initially feels uncomfortable or false. When you act as if it was the person who wants to become, when you make decisions based on who you are becoming instead of who you were in the past, you dramatically speed up the transformation process. This 5-step process, conscious identification, standard interruption, new programming installation, emotional anchoring, and behavioral integration, is the exact formula that has been used by extraordinary people throughout history to transcend their limitations and create lives that seemed impossible based on their initial circumstances. And now you have access to this same mental technology that can transform any area of your life you choose to focus on. The profound transformation of your limiting beliefs does not happen linear or instantaneously. It follows a predictable and scientifically documented pattern that unfolds in 3 distinct phases, each with its own characteristics, challenges, and opportunities. Understanding these phases is crucial to your success because it allows you to browse the process with realistic expectations and proper strategies for each stage of the journey. The first phase is what I call conscious awakening. This is the phase when you are right now, while listening to these words, and allows them to penetrate in the deepest layers of your consciousness. During this phase, you begin to perceive for the first time the real extension of the control that your limiting beliefs have exercised about your life. It is as if you are waking up from a very long dream and starting to see your reality with completely new eyes. This phase can be simultaneously exciting and disturbing. On the one hand, you feel a sense of liberation and unlimited possibility when you realize that the limitations you have accepted as unchanging facts about yourself are actually only beliefs that can be changed. On the other hand, you may feel angry, sadness, or frustration when you understand how many opportunities you have lost, how many dreams you have abandoned, how much potential you missed because of these false beliefs. It is important to understand that these feelings are completely normal and are actually a positive signs that transformation is beginning. Your mind is processing decades of limiting conditioning and beginning to reorganize around new possibilities. Some people experience what I call ego resistance during this phase, an inner voice that tries to convince them that these new ideas are fanciful, unrealistic, or dangerous. This resistance happens because your ego, the part of your mind that identifies with your limitations and problems, perceives transformation as a threat to your existence. For years, his ego has built a complex identity based on his limitations. I am the kind of person who fights financially. I am someone who is not lucky in love. I am a shy person who cannot speak in public. When you begin to question these limiting identities, your ego goes into defense mode and tries to sabotage the process. The key to successfully navigating through this first phase is to recognize resistance without being overwhelmed by it. When your mind begins to generate doubts, fears, or justifications to maintain old beliefs, simply observe these thoughts as temporary phenomena that are part of the transformation process. Do not fight them. Do not try to suppress them, but do not identify with them either. They are like clouds passing through the sky of your consciousness. You can observe them without being affected by them. The second phase is what I call active reconstruction. This is the phase where you begin to consciously implement the new beliefs and behaviors that will replace old standards. It is the most challenging phase of the process because it requires constant conscious effort and mental vigilance to interrupt automatic standards that have been reinforced by years of repetition. During this phase, you will often forget to apply new beliefs and return to the old patterns of thought and behavior. This is not a sign of failure. It is a completely normal part of the process. Think about it: how to learn how to drive a car. At first, you need to consciously think about each movement, where to put your hands on the wheel, such as pressing the pedals when using the mirrors. Over time and practice, these movements become automatic. The same is true of mental reprogramming. At first, you need to make a conscious effort to think according to your new beliefs, to interpret events empowering, to make decisions based on who you are becoming instead of who you were in the past. But with persistence and repetition, these new patterns become as automatic as the old ones were. During the active reconstruction phase, it is crucial that you are patient and compassionate with yourself. You are literally rewiring your brain, creating new neural connections and weakening the old ones. This is a real biological process that takes time. Research in neuroplasticity shows that approximately 66 days of consistent repetition is required for a new behavior to become automatic. But here is what most people don't understand. You don't have to wait 66 days to start seeing results. Positive changes begin to appear almost immediately when you start to consistently apply new beliefs. You may notice that you feel more confident in certain situations, that makes different decisions, that other people respond to you differently. These small signs of progress are fuel to maintain their high motivation during the most challenging moments of transformation. The third and final phase is what I call automatic integration. This is the phase where new beliefs become so integrated with your identity that you no longer have to think consciously about them. They simply become who you are, not what you are trying to become. It is like the difference between someone who is learning to speak a foreign language and someone who is native in this language. Fluency becomes natural and effortless. During this phase, you can look back and be surprised at how different your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors were before transformation. The old limitations seem to belong to a completely different person, someone you knew, but who is no longer you. You can even have difficulty remembering exactly what it was like to live with those limiting beliefs, just as it is difficult to remember exactly what it was like not to read after you dominate reading. This phase is characterized by a deep feeling of authenticity and alignment. You are no longer trying to be confident, prosperous, happy, or successful. You are just these things. Your actions naturally flow from your empowering beliefs, and you attract opportunities and experiences that are aligned with your new identity. The most beautiful about this phase is that it becomes self-referentant. The more you live according to your new beliefs, the more evidence you create that these beliefs are true, which strengthens them even more. You enter a virtuous cycle where success generates the most success, confidence generates more confidence, and abundance generates more abundance. Understanding these three phases gives you a tremendous advantage in the transformation process because you know what to expect and can properly prepare for the challenges of each step. You are now in the first phase, planting the seeds of the transformation that will flourish in the following stages. And every word you absorb at this moment is accelerating your progression through this natural process of personal evolution. In order for you to make the most of this process of transformation, it is essential to understand exactly what is happening in your brain while your limiting beliefs are dissolved and replaced by empowering beliefs. What you are experiencing right now is not just a mental or philosophical exercise. It is a real physical reorganization of neural connections in your brain, a process that modern neuroscience calls neuroplasticity. Its brain contains approximately 100 billions of neurons, each connected to thousands of other neurons through structures called synapses. These synaptic connections form complex networks that store all their memories, beliefs, habits, skills, and thinking patterns. When you think a specific thought or have a particular experience, you activate a specific neural network, and the more often this network is activated, the stronger it becomes. This is why limiting beliefs that have been reinforced for years or decades feel so true and automatic. Neural networks that represent these beliefs have been strengthened through constant repetition until they become superhighways in their brain. ways of less resistance that their thoughts follow automatically. When something happens in your life, your brain instantly processes this information through these established networks, generating interpretations, emotions, and answers that are consistent with your existing beliefs. But here is the revolutionary discovery that completely changed our understanding of human potential. These neural networks are not fixed or permanent. They can be modified, weakened, strengthened, or completely reorganized at any age through a process that neuroscientists call synaptic plasticity. When you stop using a specific neural network, the synaptic connections that compose it begin to weaken. When you repeatedly activate a new neural network, these connections are strengthened and become more efficient. This process is happening in your brain right now as you absorb this information in a state of relaxed receptivity. Each new idea about its unlimited potential, every new perspective on its abilities, every new belief about what is possible for you is creating new synaptic connections and strengthening neural networks that support an expanded version of who you are. What makes this process even more powerful is that your brain is in an altered state of consciousness as you listen to these words. When you relax deeply and focus your attention in a concentrated way, your brain produces specific brain waves, especially alpha and theta waves, which are ideal for accelerated learning and subconscious reprogramming. In these states, the critical barrier between your conscious and subconscious mind becomes more permeable, allowing new information to be absorbed directly by the deepest levels of your mind. Research in neuroplasticity shows that measurable changes in brain structure can be detected after just a few weeks of consistent mental practice. Studies with experienced meditators reveal that they literally have different brains from people who do not meditate. Areas associated with attention, compassion, and emotional regulation are physically larger and denser. Studies with musicians show that the brain areas responsible for thin fingertips are significantly expanded compared to non-mus. The same principle applies to the transformation of beliefs. When you consistently practice thinking according to empowering beliefs, when you repeatedly visualize yourself by living according to these new beliefs, when you consistently take actions that align with what you're becoming, you are literally sculpting new neural structures that support this new version of yourself. One of the most fascinating aspects of this process is the role of neurotransmitters, chemicals that allow communication between neurons. Different emotional and mental states are associated with different neurotransmitter profiles. States of fear, anxiety, and limitation are associated with high levels of cortisol and adrenaline, as states of trust, optimism, and possibility are associated with high levels of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. When you change your beliefs, you literally change your brain chemistry. Instead of living in a chronic state of stress and limitation, you begin to experience more frequent states of well-being, motivation, and mental clarity. This chemical change not only makes you feel better, it also improves your ability to think clearly, make good decisions, solve problems creatively, and focus on your goals. Another crucial mechanism in the transformation of beliefs is the reticular activation system, SAR, a network of neurons located on the brain trunk that acts as an attention filter. Your SAR determines what information from the environment around you come to your conscience and which is filtered as irrelevant. That's why when you are thinking of buying a specific car, you suddenly start seeing this car model everywhere. It's not that there are more such cars on the street, it's that your SAR is now programmed to notice them. Your beliefs program your SAR to filter information in a way that confirms these beliefs. If you believe that opportunities are rare, your SAR will filter most of the opportunities that appear in your life, making you literally not see them. But when you reprogram your beliefs to opportunities are everywhere, your SAR reprogrammed to notice and highlight opportunities that have always been there, but you couldn't see before. This is one of the reasons why the transformation of beliefs may seem almost magical to those who experience it. It's not just that you are thinking differently about the same circumstances, you are literally realizing a different reality, noting possibilities and opportunities that were invisible to you before the change of beliefs. The process also involves what neuroscientists call synaptic pruning, the weakening and eventual elimination of neural connections that are no longer used. As you stop reinforcing your old limiting beliefs and consistently activates new empowering neural networks, The connections that supported ancient beliefs literally begin to dissolve. It is as if you are erasing the old mental programs that no longer serve you and installing new programs that have empowered you. This neurological process explains why deep transformation requires time and consistent repetition. You are not just changing your mind, you are physically rebuilding your brain. And the more you understand and trust this process, the more effective it becomes, because you stop resisting the changes that are happening and allow them to unfold naturally. There is a level of transformation that goes far beyond the simple change of specific beliefs about their abilities or circumstances. It is the level of fundamental identity, who you believe is in your deepest core. This is the difference between someone who is trying to change specific behaviors and someone who becomes a completely different person. And it is at this level of identity that the deepest and most lasting transformations happen you can imagine. Your current identity has been built over decades through a combination of experiences, feedback from other people, social comparisons, and especially the stories you tell yourself about who you are. You can identify yourself as a shy person, someone who is not good with money, a person who is not lucky in love, someone who is not creative, or any of the hundreds of other limiting identities that people carry without question. The problem with these limiting identities is that they function as extremely powerful self-realizable prophecies. When you identify yourself as a shy person, you unconsciously act in ways that confirm this identity. You avoid social situations. You do not express yourself completely when you are with others. You interpret the behavior of others through the filter of your shyness. And then, you use these experiences as evidence that you are really a shy person, further reinforcing the limiting identity. But here is the truth that will free you completely. Your identity is not a fixed fact about who you are. It is a choice you make every moment about who you decide to be. You do not discover your identity, you create it. You are not limited by the identities you have had in the past, because you have the power to choose a new identity at any time and start living according to it immediately. People who create extraordinary transformations in their lives intuitively understand this principle. They do not expect to feel confident to start acting with confidence. They decide that they are confident people and begin to act according to this new identity immediately. They are not even expecting financial success to see each other as prosperous people. They adopt the identity of a prosperous person and begin to make decisions according to this identity. This process of identity expansion happens in 3 distinct stages. The first stage is the current identity questioning. You start to question the limiting identities you have been carrying, wondering, does this identity serve me? This identity brings me closer to my goals and dreams. This identity really reflects who I am, or is it just a story that I have told myself based on past experiences? When you ask these questions honestly, you quickly realize that most of your limiting identities are based on interpretations of past experiences, not absolute truths about who you are. You may identify yourself as a person who is not good at public speaking because you had an embarrassing experience giving a presentation at school. But this experience does not define its inherent abilities. It simply reflects its level of skill and preparation at that specific time. The second stage is the creation of the new identity. You consciously choose the identities you want to incorporate based on who you want to become, not who you were in the past. You ask yourself, if I could be any kind of person, what kind of person would I choose to be? What qualities, characteristics, and capabilities I would like to have? How would this person think, feel, and act? This is a profoundly creative process where you literally draw the person you want to become. You can choose to identify yourself as a naturally confident and charismatic person, someone who has a healthy and abundant relationship with money, a person who attracts deep and satisfactory love relationships, someone who is creative and innovative. There are no limits to the identities you can choose except those you impose on yourself. The third stage is the active incorporation of the new identity. This is where you begin to live according to your new chosen identity, even if it initially feels uncomfortable or false. You act as if you already chose to become. You make decisions based on your new identity. You behave in ways that are consistent with whom you are becoming. This stage requires courage because you are essentially abandoning the family security of your old identity in favor of the unknown territory of your new identity. Your mind can resist initially, generating thoughts like, "This is not really who you are being false. People will realize that you are pretending." But these thoughts are simply the natural resistance of the ego to change. They do not reflect the reality about who you can become. What is absolutely fascinating about this process is that when you consistently act according to a new identity, you literally become that person. It's not that you are pretending until you can, you are even becoming. Every action you take according to your new identity strengthens the neural connections that support this identity, while weakening the connections that supported ancient identity. Within weeks or months of consistent incorporation, the new identity becomes as natural and automatic as the old one was. You no longer need to consciously think about how to act. You simply act according to who you have become. And at this point, the transformation becomes permanent, because it happened at the deepest level possible, the level of the fundamental identity. One of the most powerful aspects of identity expansion is that it automatically solves problems that seemed impossible to solve at the level of specific beliefs or behaviors. For example, if you are fighting procrastination, you can try various time management techniques or motivational strategies. But if you change your identity from a person who procrastinates to a person who takes immediate and consistent action, procrastination simply disappears because he is no longer consistent with who you are. Similarly, if you are struggling with financial issues, you can try various budget or investment strategies. But if you change your identity from a person who fights financially to a person who creates and attracts abundance naturally, you automatically begin to make different decisions, notice different opportunities, and attract different experiences that are aligned with your new prosperous identity. This is the transforming power of expanded identity. It not only changes how you act, it changes it, but you perceive the world, how you interpret experiences, how you respond to challenges, and how you attract opportunities. You become a magnet for experiences that confirm and reinforce your new chosen identity. And the most beautiful about this process is that it has no limits. You can continue to expand your identity indefinitely, incorporating new qualities, developing new abilities, becoming increasingly powerful in your self-versions. Your identity becomes a constantly evolving work of art that you are consciously creating every moment of your life. We now come to the heart of deeper transformation that any human being can experience. The understanding that you are not just a passive observer of your reality, but the active architect who is constantly creating and shaping every aspect of your life experience. This is not a poetic metaphor or abstract philosophical concept. It is a literal description of how your consciousness interacts with the quantum field of infinite possibilities to materialize the specific reality you experience. Modern quantum physics has revealed something that mystics and wise have taught by millennia: that reality is not a fixed set of objective circumstances that exist regardless of their consciousness, but a fluid field of potentialities that crystallize in specific experiences through the act of conscious observation. At the subatomic level, particles exist in a state of overlap. They are simultaneously all possibilities until a conscious observer measures them, when they collapse in a specific reality. This same principle operates on the macroscopic scale of your personal life. Your conscience, composed of your beliefs, expectations, emotions, and intentions, is constantly observing the field of infinite possibilities around you, and through this act of conscious observation, you are selecting what possibilities manifest as your experienced experience. When you deeply believe that opportunities are rare in my area, your conscience is tuned to observe and manifest experiences that confirm this belief. You literally cannot see the opportunities that are constantly arising around you because your frequency of consciousness is not aligned with the frequency of these opportunities. It's like trying to tune into a radio station. If you are not at the right frequency, you cannot receive the signal even if it is being transmitted constantly. But when you expand your beliefs to abundant opportunities are constantly emerging in my life, you change the frequency of your conscience, and you suddenly tune in completely different experiences. The opportunities did not appear out of nowhere. They were always there in the field of possibilities. But now your conscience is aligned to perceive them and manifest them as part of their lived reality. This process happens through what I call conscious resonance. Just as a tuning fork vibrates at a specific frequency and makes other lifetime of the same frequency vibrating in sympathy, his awareness vibrates at a specific frequency based on his dominant beliefs, and this frequency attracts experiences that are in harmonious resonance with her. If your conscience is vibrating at the frequency of scarcity, limitation, and fear, you attract experiences that reflect these qualities: financial difficulties, troubled relationships, missed opportunities, precarious health. Not because you are a victim of the circumstances, but because your conscience is tuned to manifest experiences that are consistent with your dominant vibrational frequency. But when you consciously raise the frequency of your conscience to abundance, possibility, and love, you automatically begin to attract experiences that reflect these superior qualities. You don't have to do nothing specific to this. The attraction is automatic and inevitable, just as gravity is automatic and inevitable. The key to mastering this process is to understand that you have complete control over the frequency of your consciousness through the beliefs you choose to maintain, the thoughts you choose to think, the emotions you choose to cultivate, and the intentions you choose to establish. You are not a victim of your circumstances. You are the creator of your circumstances. This does not mean that you can instantly manifest anything you want simply wanting intensely. The conscious manifestation process operates according to certain laws and principles that must be understood and respected. The first principle is that of internal coherence. Its external manifestation can only be as powerful as its internal coherence. Alignment between their conscious beliefs, subconscious beliefs, emotions, intentions, and actions. If you consciously want financial abundance but subconsciously you believe that money is the root of all ills, or rich people are greedy, you are creating interference that prevents clear manifestation. It's like trying to drive a car with handbrake pulled. You can speed up as much as you want, but it won't get too far until you solve the internal resistance. The second principle is that of vibrational persistence. Manifestation is not a unique event, but a continuous process that requires consistent maintenance of the desired frequency. You cannot vibrate at the frequency of abundance for a few minutes and then spend the rest of the day by vibrating at the frequency of scarcity, hoping that abundance will manifest. You need to cultivate and maintain the desired frequency as a dominant state of your consciousness. The third principle is that of inspired action. Although manifestation begins at the level of consciousness, it is completed through physical action in the material world. But not any action. Action that naturally arises from your new frequency of consciousness. An action that feels inspired and aligned. Action that you are naturally motivated to take because it is consistent with whom you have become. When you are vibrating at the frequency of abundance, you naturally feel inspired to take actions that create abundance. When you are vibrating at the frequency of love, you naturally act in loving ways. When you are vibrating at the frequency of trust, you naturally take brave actions. The action is not forced or based on should. It naturally flows from its new vibrational identity. The fourth principle is that of active receptivity. Many people block their manifestations because they are not truly open to receive what they are asking. They may consciously want success, but unconsciously believe they deserve unsuccessful, or are afraid of the responsibilities that come with success, or worry about what other people will think if they are successful. Active receptivity means being genuinely open and prepared to receive what you are manifesting, including all the changes and responsibilities that come with it. It means expanding your identity to include the version of you that you already have what you want, so that when it manifests, you are ready to receive it and administer it properly. When you understand and apply these principles consistently, you become a conscious and powerful manifester, capable of creating extraordinary changes in your reality through the intelligent application of the universal laws that govern the relationship between consciousness and experience. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the conscious architect of your own reality. And the more beautiful about this process is that the more you practice it, the more natural and effortless it becomes. Conscious manifestation is not something you do, it's something you become. It is a state of being where you are constantly aligned with the creative flow of the universe, co-creating a reality that reflects the highest aspects of your consciousness. We now come to the most crucial moment of this whole transforming journey. The moment where all the insights, understandings, and internal changes you have experienced crystallize in a new integrated and permanent version of who you are. This is not only the end of a mental reprogramming session, but the birth of a new identity that will influence every aspect of your life from now on. At this moment, as you absorb these final words in a state of deep receptivity, fundamental changes are consolidating yourself at the deepest levels of your consciousness. The old limiting beliefs that once seemed so solid and unchanging are dissolving as a mist before the rising sun of their new understanding. Instead, empowering beliefs are deeply rooted in the structure of your subconscious mind, becoming an integral part of who you are. You can feel this transformation happening now, a subtle but unmistakable feeling that something fundamental has changed inside you. Perhaps it is a feeling of lightness, as if a weight you had been carrying for years had been gently removed from your shoulders. Perhaps it is an expansion in the region of your chest, as if your heart was opening for possibilities that once seemed impossible. Perhaps it is a new mental clarity, as if a mist that obscured his vision of the future had completely dissipated. These sensations are not imaginary. They are real physical manifestations of the neurological changes that are happening in your brain at this time. New synaptic connections are forming, new neural paths are settling, and your mind is reorganizing around an expanded and empowered version of who you are. The person you were when you started listening to these words, with all your limitations, fears, and doubts about your potential, this person is becoming something completely new. It is not that you are becoming someone different. You are becoming who you have always been destined to be, free from the limiting layers that obscured your true nature. This new version of you carries an unshakable confidence in your abilities. You know, at a level that goes beyond logic or reason, that you have within you everything you need to create the life you want. This is not a confidence based on arrogance or illusion, but a confidence based on the deep recognition of its true nature as a creative and powerful being. This new version of you sees opportunities where you once saw only obstacles. Its reticular activation system has been completely reprogrammed to filter information in a way that supports its goals and aspirations. Where before you saw evidence of limitation and scarcity, now you see evidence of possibility and abundance. Where before you see reasons to give up, now you see opportunities to grow and expand. This new version of you makes decisions of a place of personal power, not fear or insecurity. When confronted with choices, you naturally ask, what would the highest version of myself do in this situation? And then you act according to this internal orientation, knowing that each empowered decision further strengthens its new identity. This new version of you attracts people, experiences, and opportunities that are aligned with whom you have become. Your vibrational frequency has changed fundamentally, and as a result, you are now in tune with a completely different reality. A reality where your dreams are not only possible, but inevitable, as long as you keep alignment with this new version of yourself. But perhaps the deepest change of all is in its relationship with the process of growth and transformation itself. You now understand that change is not something that happens to you, but something you consciously directs. You are not a victim of the circumstances, but the active architect of your own experience. You have the power to choose your beliefs, shape your identity, and create your reality. This understanding brings with it a deep feeling of freedom and personal responsibility. Freedom because you know you are not limited by current circumstances or past experiences. You can create changes in any area of your life by applying the same principles you have experienced today. Responsibility because you recognize that you are the creator of your experience, and therefore you have the power and responsibility to create a life that reflects the highest aspects of who you are. In the following days and weeks, you will notice evidence of this transformation manifesting yourself in tangible forms in your life. You may be surprised making decisions you would never have considered before. You can catch yourself talking more confidently, acting more courageously, or simply feeling more comfortable in your own skin. Other people will also notice the change. They can comment that there is something different about you. Maybe you seem more confident, more radiant, more present. They may not be able to identify exactly what has changed, but they will feel the difference in their energy and presence. And as you continue to live according to this new version of yourself, the transformation deepens and expands. Every action you take aligned with your new identity strengthens the neural connections that support it. Every empowered decision you make creates more evidence that you are really the powerful and capable person you have become. Most important of all is that you now have the tools and understanding to continue this transformation process indefinitely. You can apply these same principles to create changes in any area of your life you want to improve. You can continue to expand your identity, raising your beliefs and expressing increasingly extraordinary versions of your life. This is not just a temporary or superficial change. It is a fundamental transformation that will positively influence every aspect of its existence from now on. You now carry a new mental programming within you that will automatically guide you towards success, fulfillment, and happiness in all areas of your life. And as you prepare to return to your normal state of consciousness, you know with absolute certainty that you are no longer the same person who was before this experience. You have evolved, expanded, and turned into a more powerful, confident, and yourself-capable version. And this transformation is permanent, irreversible, and completely yours. The new you are ready to create an extraordinary life. The new you are ready to express your highest dreams. The new you are ready to become everything you always knew it could be. Welcome to your new reality. Welcome to the new you.